Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Hari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Om Vishnu Bhagavad Mahamsa Bhagavad Gacharya also does Shishvede Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Param Sangha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Govida Shama Kunda Radha Kudda Gidi Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadabdam Ki Jai Gangs Jamuna Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Karnataka Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Go Premanandi All glories to the Son of the Bodhis All glories to the Son of the Bodhis All glories to the Son of the Bodhis All glories to Shri Guru Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatyarishatadane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10, Chapter 74, verse 35. Varnashrama kulapeta Sarvadharma bahiskritaha Svairavarti gunayarhina Saparyam katam arhati Varna are the principles of the four occupational orders of society. Ashrama are the four spiritual orders. Kula, proper family upbringing. apeta, devoid, sarva, from all, dharma, codes of religious duty, bahiskata, excluded, sphira, independently, avarti, behaving, gunai, qualities, hina, lacking, saparyam, worship, katam, how, arhati, deserves. Translation: how does one who follows no principles of the social and spiritual orders or of family ethics, who has been excluded from all religious duties, who behaves whimsically, and who has no good qualities, how does such a person deserve to be worshipped? Purport: Srila Prabhupada comments, actually Krishna does not belong to any caste, nor does he have to perform any occupational duty. It is stated in the Vedas that the Supreme Lord has nothing to do as his prescribed duty. Whatever is to be done on his behalf is executed by his different energies. Shishupala indirectly praised Krishna by saying he is not within the jurisdiction of Vedic injunction. This is true because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has no qualities. That he has no qualities means that Krishna has no material qualities. And because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he acts independently, not caring for conventions or social or religious principles. Yayati cursed the dynasty of these Yadavas, and ever since then they have been obstructed by ostracized by honest men and addicted to liquor. How then does Krishna deserve to be worshipped? Purport of the Vishnu Chakravarti gives the inner meaning of the words of Shishupala to show how he continued unintentionally glorifying Lord Krishna and his Yadu dynasty. Even though the Yadus were cursed by Yayati, they have been relieved of this curse by great saints, and consequently they have been raised to a position of royal sovereignty by such persons as Kartavirya. Thus, they have become absorbed in Pana, protecting the earth. Considering all this, how does Krishna, the chief of the Yadus, deserve useless worship? Rather, he deserves opulent worship. These Yadus have abandoned the holy lands inhabited by saintly sages and instead taken shelter of a fortress in the sea, a place where no Brahminical principles are observed. There, just like thieves, they harass their subjects. The words Brahmarshi Sevitan Deshan, holy lands inhabited by saintly sages, alludes to the district of Mathura. Srila Prabhupada writes, Shishupala went crazy because of Krishna's being elected the supreme first worship person in that meeting, and he spoke so irresponsibly that it appeared that he had lost all his good fortune. Bereft of all good fortune, Shishupala spoke these and other insults, but the Supreme Lord said nothing, just as a lion ignores a jackal's cry. Upon hearing such intolerable blasphemy of the Lord, several members of the assembly covered their ears and walked out, angrily cursing the king of Chedi. Anyone who fails to immediately leave the place where he hears criticism of the Supreme Lord or his faithful devotees will certainly fall down, bereft of his pious credit. Then the sons of Pandu became furious, and together with the warriors of the Matsya, Kaikaya, and Srunjaya clans, they rose up from their seats with weapons poised, ready to kill Shishupala. Undaunted, Shishupala then took up his sword and shield in the midst of all the assembled kings, O Bharat, and hurled insults at those who sided with Lord Krishna. At that point, the Supreme Lord stood up and checked his devotees. He then angrily sent forth his razor-sharp disc and severed the head of his enemy as he was attacking. Purport of the Vishnu Chakravarti, Thakur explains the Lord's action as follows. If the Lord had done nothing, there would probably have been a savage fight on the sacrificial grounds, and thus the whole ceremony would have been drenched in blood, spoiling the sanctified atmosphere. Therefore, in order to protect the Rajasuya sacrifice of Krishna's beloved devotee Yudhisthira, The Lord immediately severed Shishupala's head with his razor-sharp disc in such a way that not a drop of blood fell within the sacrificial grounds. So, here we have a whole series of verses describing how Shishupala criticized Krishna and the Yadus. And, of course, as previously, though his words are very offensive, by the arrangement of the author and of Saraswati, they actually have another positive meaning also. So this particular verse is not so much reinterpreting the meaning of the words or dividing them in different ways, but just admitting that the criticism is not a real criticism. For people in the material world who are very attached to Dharma, if one gives up Dharma and Varna Ashram, then it is a criticism. But for the Supreme Lord to do so, no, it's not a criticism, it's a praise. Because Varnas and Ashramas have to do with the gunas of material nature. And Supreme Lord has nothing to do with gunas, so he's not obligated at any time to follow all those rules and regulations. So, therefore, the first line here says Varna Ashrama Kula Apeta. He's not following the rules of Varna Ashram or family traditions, etc. Why? Because he's beyond all those rules. He may follow or he may not follow. It's up to him because he's completely independent. So the Varnas are definitely connected with the gunas. So Sudras are in Tamagun, and Vaishyas are in Tama and Rajagun, and Kshatriyas and Rajas and Sattva, and Brahmins and Sattva. So that's all gunas. So the Lord establishes rules and regulations for people according to gunas. Because they are in certain gunas, he establishes certain rules for them. But the Lord is beyond all that. Why he should have to follow those rules? Those are for people in the gunas. Brahmanas follow rules for Brahmanas, which are sattvic rules. But Lord isn't beyond sattva, so why he should follow those rules? Or any of the rules of any of the ashramas. So technically, he doesn't have to follow anything. He's beyond the rules. And if he does follow, it's not because he must follow. It's because he's only setting an example to inspire others, that's all. So he's actually beyond all the rules in his very essence. So in this way, such a criticism has no meaning. And similarly, he's beyond all dharma. He's excluded from all religious duties. These religious duties, again, are within the gunas. So definitely he doesn't have to follow those rituals or whatever. And Svairivarti, he's very independent. Yes, because he is the supreme independent. So it's not a criticism, it's actually a praise of the Lord that he doesn't have to, he's not obliged to anybody in the whole of the material world or the spiritual world. He's completely free and above everyone else. And Gunahina, devoid of material gunas. He's devoid of sattva, rajas, and tamas. He's nirguna. So in this way, the criticisms are actually true statements if we see them related to Supreme Lord. Now, Shishupala doesn't accept Krishna as Supreme Lord, then obviously they are criticisms. So people stuck in the material world have to follow rules and regulations, and according to the gunas, then they should follow the rules of Varna and Ashrama. They have to develop good qualities, preferably sattvic qualities. And they have to obey, because they cannot be independent. So everybody has another person above them. Sudras have the three Varnas above them, Vaishyas have the Kshatriyas above them, Kshatriyas have the Brahmanas above them. And above the Brahmanas is Supreme Lord. And scriptural injunctions. So nobody is independent in the material world. They have to follow. This type of criticism is valid for a person who is in the material world affected by the gunas. He must follow. he must obey those rules. But Krishna is not in the material world. He's not part of the material world at all, eternally. So therefore, none of this applies. And rather, it's proper that he doesn't follow anything. He's beyond all the rules and regulations and the gunas. So in this way, the words of Shishupala can be taken as actually a statement of fact about the supreme position of the Supreme Lord. He doesn't have to follow. He's not obligated to follow as others follow. And then he mentions the curse of Yayati, by which the Yadus should not rule, they should not be kings. So that was some curse that was uttered by Yayati. So he's bringing that ancient history up as a proof that they shouldn't rule the kingdom. And he criticizes Krishna going to Dwarka. Say this is a place with no principles, impure place, etc., just for thieves. We know that Krishna chose that place for very special reasons. It was difficult to attack for all these great demons. And of course, Dwarka itself, we know, is actually a sacred place. And in the different Puranas, we find that it is glorified. So, not actually true. He's just about of hatred. He's criticizing everything about the Supreme Lord. In this way, his criticisms were, on his part, intentionally insulting and offensive, in order to make Krishna angry. And of course, it made everybody else angry. And therefore, it describes here how the different groups were about to pull out their swords and fight with them, etc. And some left the assembly because of in anger. So people understood that Shishupala was a offensive person, and therefore they wanted to leave the place. And even the Pandavas, they also were enthusiastic to fight with Shishupala. But before they could do anything, then Krishna raised his Sudarshan chakra and he cut off his head. And in this way, it was skillfully done, so no blood fell anywhere and nothing was contaminated. And of course we know that Shishupala went to the spiritual world and got a spiritual body. So in this way, the killing was not actually anything inauspicious. It became very auspicious and without any impurity, because it was done by the Supreme Lord with his Sudarshan chakra. It describes here how the Lord was also angry, and therefore he threw his Sudarshan chakra. So that anger, of course, is superficial, just as sometimes other forms of the Lord fight angrily with demons, like Varaha fighting with Hiranyaksha, etc. So it is a temporary manifestation. It is not like material anger. It is a secondary quality that manifests in relation to all the good qualities of the Lord. So it's not a bad quality in the Supreme Lord. It's based upon the Lord's compassion and also his desire to establish Dharma and protect devotees. So in relation to that, he develops this anger in relation to Shishupala, who's a demon. But we see that it could not be real anger, because the result was he went to the spiritual world, he got a good reward. So how can that be the result of his anger? So the anger was actually a superficial manifestation. Internally, he had a very great plan for Shishupala. So therefore the Lord has no bad qualities, no material qualities. Rather, what appears to be material is actually the opposite, spiritual. So the Lord or the devotees may display qualities in the spiritual world which look contrary. And they may do activities which look contrary, but no, they're all in relation to their relationship with the Supreme Lord. So they manifest temporarily, and they add to the rasa. They increase the rasa by their manifestation, and then they disappear. So therefore they're called temporary manifestations, or vyabhichari bhavas, or sanchari bhavas. So the Lord actually is perfect. And though Shishupala criticized with these different things, like saying he has no good qualities, etc., actually, in all cases, the Lord shows the best qualities. In this case also, in killing Shishupala, best quality was shown, because the Lord gave him a place in the spiritual world, which is rarely attained by even devotees, what to speak of demons. So he did something very, very wonderful. So all the qualities and all the actions of the Lord are perfect. So if the Lord chooses to neglect certain aspects of varna, ashram, or dharma, etc., it is a perfect act, and it has good results. So Shishupala criticized Krishna for not following varnashram. He's actually a Vaishya, but he's acting like a kshatriya, and he shouldn't do that. His birth is wrong, whatever. So of course that can be argued also, because though he was acting as a Vaishya, as a cowherd or whatever, as a child, actually he belonged to the family of he was the son of Vasudeva, who belonged to that order. So even then his criticism is not so just. So very weak arguments he gives. But in any case, even Krishna follows either Vaishya dharma according to Varna, or Kshatriya dharma, etc. That again is also superficial in one sense. Because, and even for the devotees like Yudhisthira, also superficial, because they're not in the material world at all, they're not subject to the gunas. So they play the role of kshatriyas, which is a mixture in the material world of rajagun and sattvagun. But Krishna's beyond the gunas, the yadus are beyond the gunas also. It doesn't really apply at all. So why do this? One, of course, is simply pastimes. They take up roles in certain varnas and sometimes act according to those rules, but they're not bound by those rules. So they only act as props for their particular pastimes, and that produces joy for the devotees. So therefore they're not obligated at all to follow these different rules or whatever. And we see also that they follow those rules to set an example for others. They also sometimes break the rules. So that again is because they're not obligated to follow completely, and not following does not create any sinful reaction for them. And even the not following can be defended from other principles of dharma itself. So ultimately, of course, the real reason for Krishna not following is because he is independent, completely independent. And he may neglect for different reasons. One is simply because spontaneously he's attracted to his devotees, so therefore it goes beyond all rules of dharma. And the rules of dharma don't apply anymore. So for that reason, his spontaneous independent nature is superior to his role of supporting dharma and following the rules of dharma to inspire people of this world. It's a higher principle. So therefore the Lord is in a special position in relation to following all these rules and regulations. Usually the Lord comes to establish dharma and protect the devotees and destroy the demons, all of which are related to each other. So the devotees are those who support Dharma, so therefore the two go together, and the demons are those who want to destroy Dharma, so therefore they have to be destroyed. So often the Lord comes for those particular purposes, and therefore he acts to restore Dharma and act according to Dharma and inspire people to follow Dharma. And that's normal. But, as I said, prema, bhakti and prema are beyond that. So then sometimes the Lord breaks those principles also, and he does something completely different. So that's exemplified by Krishna's relationship with the gopis. So it goes beyond Dharma. And even the gopis criticize Krishna for that he's going beyond Dharma and how we can act like this. But what it shows is Krishna is beyond Dharma, and even the gopis are beyond Dharma. They spontaneously are attracted to Krishna, and the rules of Dharma are superficial for them. They're impediments. So this shows independence in the spiritual world, independence of Krishna, independence of those devotees. They're beyond all those rules, simply because of the relationship between Krishna and his devotees. So though Dharma is practical for the material world, in the spiritual world, the main element is rasa, the relationship between Krishna and his devotees. So that's the rule there, that's the Dharma there. That's the prominent rule, and everything is molded according to rasa in the spiritual world. So some of the rasas there, of course, are related to Dharma. So Vishnu or Ramchandra, very much their rasas are related to Dharma and following rules and regulations, etc. So Rama follows very nicely dharmic rules and whatever and principles. And the rasa of the people related to him are also within that context. So therefore we don't find such obvious transgressions of Dharma. But Krishna is different. His role is not that. The rasa is not obstructed or colored by obligation to follow dharmic rules. It's much more spontaneous. And therefore we find Krishna is more likely to break the rules than the other forms of the Lord. In many cases we see that. So a unique case. For that reason, materialists cannot appreciate Krishna, and demons will criticize Krishna. He's breaking all the rules. How can he be God? He's not God. So it requires a very special type of devotee who can understand and appreciate. So that's why not all people are attracted to Krishna. They're attracted to other forms of the Lord. They like all this formality and dharma aspect of the Lord. Others are attracted to Krishna with his more spontaneous expression of love for his devotee. So therefore the different types of devotees will be able to be attracted to Krishna, and they will understand the nature of his pastimes, and they won't find this a problem where he seems to break the dharmic rules. So ultimately the highest dharma is any act of the Supreme Lord. That is the highest dharma, but that's difficult for people in the material world to understand. Though Shishupala is criticizing Krishna for breaking rules and whatever, and he's so difficult to understand, actually, no matter what the Supreme Lord does in any form, Shishupala would criticize. It's the nature of the demon. So even if Vishnu appeared, he would criticize him for some reason. And we see that previously he was Hiranyakasipu and Ravana, and he did not appreciate the Lord at all. Even the Lord was following all the rules, whatever like that, and manifested great powers and whatever. Still, he'll reject him and criticize him for some reason or the other. So the nature of the demon is, in any case, he will find some fault in the Supreme Lord no matter what form he takes, and criticize. But of course, as Krishna, even more difficult, and therefore very easily Shishupala finds some fault in him, because he looks like he is breaking all the rules.
I find that other case like Ravana, Kamsa, they criticize the Lord indirectly to their friends. Where Shishupala is directly criticizing. So the difference between those demons, they were telling others that it is Krishna's like this. Face to face, Shishupala is criticizing.
Well, we can say that actually 3 lifetimes he was frustrated. One time he got killed, another time finally. So it looks like his hatred built up over 3 lifetimes of meditating on the Lord in hatred. So therefore it manifests, and it was a continuous thing from very birth, so to speak, his hatred of the Lord. Whereas in the case of Hiranyakasipu, he saw Nrsimhadev only at the last moment, and when he fought with him, and Ramchandra only when he got to the battle that he could actually personally see Ramchandra. But with Krishna from very birth, he knew about him, and he saw him several times, etc. So it seems his concentration on his hatred increased. But special reason is Krishna was even more attractive than the other forms of the Lord. So therefore he could not help but think of him because of his beautiful form and because of his name. So he became much more absorbed in Krishna than Hiranyakasipu or Ravana, because Krishna's got more attractive qualities.
Mentioned some of them left the assembly. They couldn't tolerate the blasphemy. If they are the senior devotees or the senior members, or they didn't want to be part of the blasphemy.
Yeah, that's the general, for devotees in general, one should not tolerate blasphemy, so one should leave the place. Or then it says one should cut out his tongue. But that's not possible in most cases. Somehow, you should not hear it. You can try to stop him. If you cannot be stopped, then you leave the place. So that's the general instruction for devotees.
Just like Krishna killing Sisupal and other demons, there are demigods also killing demons, like Skanda killing Saurabhatma, Shiva killed many demons. So when the Shishupali delivered, maybe Brahma Jyoti, or maybe Brahman. But the demigods killing demons, whether they were promoted to heavenly planets or
Generally, when demons get killed, they have to just bear their karma. So if they're very evil, they'll go to a hellish place. When Vishnu kills a demon, he does not go to a hellish place. He gets some nice promotion. He may go to Svargaloka, become a great king on earth. So that's not the quality of the demons killed by Devatas. That's the quality of Vishnu. And when Krishna kills a demon, then he may get liberation or go to Vaikuntha even. So Krishna is more special even than Vishnu. But Vishnu's got this quality of elevating a demon after he kills them, whereas the Devatas don't do that.
It happened for Vritasura. He was also killed by Indra, but he attains Vritasura.
Oh, because he wasn't a demon, actually, he was a devotee. That's a special case.
Although he had a demon body.
He had prema, actually, so that's why he was different. Yeah. He wanted to die so he could leave that demon body. Huh?
We see that Shishupala was criticizing Krishna, but Krishna didn't take it as a criticism, he took it as like a glorification. But all his associates was an criticism because of their relationship with Krishna.
Our nature, showing the nature as Kshatriyas, etc.
So my question is that although Krishna is very merciful, he took it as a glorification, but his associates could not accept it. But in the material we see that there is also devoted something criticizing. Can you say that telling truth is a criticism or not? Telling truth?
No. So, of course, it depends on the intention of the person. But generally, truth is not a criticism. But generally, truth should also be told in a way that it is pleasing. That's an instruction from Manu Samhita, that you should tell the truth and never avoid the truth, but it should be done in such a way that it is pleasing to the person.
But sometimes we see that we give some responsibility to some devotees.
Yeah.
Although that devotee is not able to do that service, when you say that he's not doing, why are you criticizing? He's not doing something, and if still,
Yeah. So then it's not real criticism; it's just pointing out fact. In that case, criticism, in the sense of negative criticism, would be when it's not true. He is doing it, but you're saying he's not doing it, something like that. But if someone is not doing something they should do, then obviously it should be corrected. Just like if someone is taught to do different aspects of devotional service, but he's not doing it properly. So if you tell him, it's not a criticism, it's guidance, but if they take it and they just don't want to follow it, then that's their problem, really.
But we see that devotees sometimes they take this as an advantage. Then why are you telling you are an authority?
Well, yeah, and then it's not proper. They're actually they should take advice in order to improve their devotional service.
Another thing is because although Shishupala he attained Sarvamukti because he was killed by Krishna, and we see although many yogis they are also doing austerity, they are controlling the senses to attain the liberation. And in the case of Shishupala, we see although he could not control the senses and nothing, just simply absorption in Krishna had helped him to attain the Sarvamukti.
Yeah.
But for the yogis, although they did so much austerity, but after doing so much austerity, they couldn't attain. So what is the difference? Why?
The yogis do not meditate on the form of the Lord, so therefore they don't get a form. Shishupala meditated in hatred on a form of the Lord, and therefore he attained a form, a forearm form like forearm Krishna. So, in other words, if you meditate on a form, then you get a forearm form. If you meditate on nothing, then you attain nothing, no form. So the yogis attain no form because of that. If the yogis were to worship Paramatma and meditate on him all that, then they could also go to the spiritual world or whatever and attain Paramatma or Vishnu in the spiritual world if they were to do that. But ultimately, they give up that meditation and they go into the Brahman because they prefer that. They're not concentrating, they're only using Paramatma and His mercy to get liberation.
Can you say that? Can you say that even Shishupala, he was not intentionally actually accepting Krishna's form. It was unintentional.
Well, he didn't know. He was just out of hatred he was concentrating on, but it was very attractive for him, so he kept concentrating on it. So it was nothing intentional or devotional in his it was motivated by hatred. But why he concentrated on him so much is because Krishna was more attractive than Ramchandra or Nrsimhadev.
And can you say that he also actually, Shishupala was actually envious of Krishna?
Yeah, definitely. Well, after 3 lifetimes he was envious.
But yogis are not envious.
Yeah.
You cannot say that they are envious of Lord.
Yeah, but they don't get killed by the Lord also. This is only a special case of getting killed by Krishna. So they meditate and they attain Brahman. They're not meditating; they're meditating on Brahman mainly. So they attain Brahman, but after a lot of endeavor.
Can you say that yogis, even although they don't have this nature of hatred, can you say that they are not superior than what Shishupala was doing?
They're not.
They are not superior than Shishupala because although they are not.
Well, we say that anyone who attains liberation, the Gyanis and the Yogis, what is that attainment? Because that's what the demons get. So, in one sense, not superior, but they have to be killed by the Lord, by Krishna, to get that. And that's very rare also. So only if the demon gets killed by Krishna, he gets that liberation and whatever. So Krishna only appears once in a day of Brahma, so that's rare. So at other times, that advantage is not there. At best, if they get killed by other forms of the Lord, they get some position in the material world, so they don't get liberated. So in that sense, they're inferior to the yogis and the Gyanis.
So it is not true that Shishupala's mother was a devotee, was speaking to Krishna to save Shishupala. True that Shishupala's mother was a devotee of the Lord, was pleading to the Lord to save his son.
Not to kill him.
Not to kill him.
Not to kill him.
So he waited and waited and waited, and then finally he killed him.
Actually, he was destined to be killed by Krishna.
Yeah.
But Shishupala's mother said that, please save my son.
Yeah.
And I will save him.
Yeah.
And I will forgive 100 often, not more than that.
Yeah. So Krishna waited and waited and waited, and he kept offending, and so finally he killed him. The 100th offense or whatever, then he killed him. But the other plan was he got purified by that time, and therefore he went to Vaikuntha. So the Lord knows everything about the condition of the jiva or whatever, so he knew Shishupala also, and therefore at the proper time, then he ended his blasphemy and whatever.
Narandara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ki jai. Jivan Krishna Bhakti Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Hari.
Gauranga.